want to talk to you today about the things you can do in your own backyard to help the upcoming fall migration. So who are the pollinators? We should all be very grateful for them. 80% of our food is provided by butterflies, bats, and birds. And they are responsible for 1 out of every 3 bites of food that you take. So the little things that run the world can only help all of us. And so we should try to help all of them. Certainly one of my favorite topics is the upcoming fall migration of the monarch butterfly. I do tag butterfly, and it's time to tag. Between now and the beginning of September in my area, based on the latitude, is when the peak migration of butterflies will occur. And I want to try to attract as many butterflies as possible to the garden. So I'm going to share with you some of my favorite fall perennial pollinator plants that you could consider for your garden so that you can help fuel the migration too. So let's talk about one of my favorites, and that is certainly milkweed. You see here on the left, milkweed, and it is one of several different types of milkweed, and I have in my garden, but I can tell you it is definitely a favorite. After a 40 to 50 meals a day for about 10 days, you will see them hang upside down in a J shape and then shed their skin. And this is the beginning of the butterfly. Literally, to be a butterfly, you've got to be willing to give up everything, including your own skin. This process only takes a few minutes, but they will hang in this position for the next 10 to 15 days, depending upon weather, before they will emerge. We definitely had a cold, wet spring, so it was a very late arrival of the monarchs. So as they move on, we want to think about the different things that we could provide for them to eat. And these are certainly some of the things that you might think about. Now, most monarchs will not eclose or put their chrysalises near the milkweed, and that's good. Little monarch caterpillars have very sharp feet, and they can puncture or damage the chrysalis, and sometimes the chrysalis also gets eaten if there's not a lot of milkweed around. So they usually will find a place, in this case, a peach tree that was about 30 feet away from the milkweed. This monarch will hang approximately 2 hours in this position from its chrysalis. If it were to fall, those wings may never straighten out. And you may see them expel a red serous fluid that is completely normal. They have to get rid of all that fluid in their wings and their abdomen before they can fly. This is a swallowtail. So on the left, what you see is a swallowtail baby. It looks a little bit like bird poop. That's on purpose so that he stays nice and hidden. And I have both parsley and dill, as well as bronze fennel, as you saw that caterpillar eating there. And they will also form chrysalises, although they will look quite different than the one you just saw. So what are some of the favorite things in the garden for the butterflies this time of year? Definitely Joe Pye is top on my list. It's easy to grow, and it comes in different sizes. So I have a 3 to 4 foot size, and I have a 5 to 6 foot size. Also a favorite this time of year, it's a late bloomer and a long bloomer called boneset. It gets quite tall. I usually have them in my garden somewhere between 5 to 9 feet tall, and it's more tree-like with branches. It is covered in these tiny little white flowers. Definitely a favorite of the butterflies, but also for your native wasps. So you will see a lot of insects on this particular plant this time of year. I only planted this blazing marsh, made of blazing stars, this past year. And so this was its first season to bloom. And if I could say any plant in my garden right now is a butterfly magnet, it is absolutely this. And bonus, the hummingbird visits it every morning. Another one that I highly recommend is bee balm. Now, my bee balm has a tendency to get very leggy, so I do cut it back. So the ones I did cut are blooming late, which is again great for this late migration. And you can see here a very nice swallowtail having a little sip of nectar out of those plants. This is also a favorite of another star that I love. That is the hummingbird moth or the clearwing moth. Another really great multi-purpose long blooming flower you should consider for your garden is this coneflower. This is a green-headed coneflower. You can see that the butterflies nectaring here. My hummingbird comes to visit, but it's really important too for the birds. These seeds provide well-needed fuel for the upcoming migration. And birds can lose half of their body weight overnight. So it's extremely important to consider making seed heads available even after the flowers are spent. So don't cut your seed heads. It's really important for the migrants. Speaking of migrations, did you know that the monarch has the longest migration of any insect on Earth? Now you can see them here on an annual that is not native to the area, but is absolutely a monarch magnet. Also too, the hummingbird loves this one. It's called Mexican sunflower. I understand there's more than one different type, so you want to pay attention to the type here. This is a color called torch, and that is a tagged butterfly from last year. There were so many butterflies last year that migrated down to Mexico that they showed up on the weather map as a storm. And you too can help fuel this storm by providing things like Mexican sunflower in your garden. Where do you get the tags? MonarchWatch.org is where I order my tags from. This helps scientists understand where they originated from and where they have gone. And citizen scientists that see these little stickers with the number can take a little picture and forward that information to Monarch Watch, and that also tells them where they are going. Not all butterflies make it to the overwintering grounds in Mexico. Some do on the West Coast stay in the forests near Central California. And you definitely want to, if you see a tagged butterfly, report it so that scientists can understand where they are going. On the right, you can see the different monarch way stations here in North America. Almost 30,000 last year and hopefully many more this year. Pandemic showed us that gardening became one of the most popular hobbies in the United States, and that has continued into this fall. You don't need a lot of room, that is for sure. A lot of people plant just the hell strip between the sidewalk and the road. And here are some plants that you want to consider depending on what you're trying to feed. Nectar sources like asters and goldenrod become very important this year because they provide a lot of carbohydrates as well as overwintering habitat for birds and butterflies. Speaking of migratory birds, as we said earlier, I think it's really important that even though the seed heads don't look so pretty this time of year, that you leave them for the birds. So get to be a little bit of a lazy gardener in the fall, and you definitely want to leave the leaves as well to provide material for your overwintering butterflies and moths to be able to survive. So if you do have trees in your yard, rake those leaves up underneath the tree. Most butterflies pupate under the ground, and so this provides a little bit of shelter and a little bit of protection from the cold winter as well as predators. As I mentioned earlier, the asters and goldenrods are really crucial for this time of year, and they provide not only a beautiful long bloom, but they provide a really important source of nectar and carbohydrates for your pollinators. So I hope that this has inspired you to think about planting additional plants this fall for your migrants. These will come back year after year, especially if you spread those seed heads around. You're always going to have those beautiful torch sunflowers. And someone I highly recommend you consider reading Doug Tallamy if you are concerned about the lack of insects and pollinators in your yard. A great guide for being able to understand how you too, as a citizen, can create a wildlife paradise in your own backyard.